Hi guys, this is Mr. Tan, and today we are in the Vatican City in St. Peter's Square in Rome, and we're looking at St. Peter's Church across us here in St. Peter's Square. Behind us we've got the lovely Cleopatra's Needle and beautiful water fountains to our left and right. So we are doing P5 in management accounts in Edexcel Pearson. And P5 says compare how organisations are adapting management accounting systems to respond to financial questions. So compare how organisations are responding to management accounting systems to respond to financial problems. So really we need to first, as we always do, is to break the question down and to identify the keywords. The keywords here really is to compare. And compare basically means to look for the similarity and differences between different organisations in this context. So we are also looking at how organisations, what are organisations? Well, we're looking at, from a UK's perspective, you've got the public organisations, private organisations and social enterprise organisations. Public, like the NHS, police, social security, defence. Private in terms of sole traders, partnerships, private limited companies, public limited companies, and then in the social enterprise sector in terms of voluntary organisations and also social enterprises set up as limited liability companies. But we're not really talking about the public sector organisations or the social enterprise organisations. In this instance, we're looking at organisations being defined within the private sector. So we're looking at organisations in the private sector and how these organisations over a period of time are adapting their management accounting systems. So we also have to work out what do we mean by management accounting systems, which we've also covered in P1. But before we look at how they are adapting the management accounting systems, we have to look at how they are responding to financial problems. So what do we mean financial problems? If it's a limited liability company, then the limited liability company has a responsibility to their stakeholders and their shareholders to meet their profits and their targets, with their profits which will enable the company to hit a minimum net profit and therefore pay corporation dividends to their shareholders, and also to make sure that they're hitting their targets and also to show that they're achieving market growth. So, if companies are not doing this in a very competitive world, then it is going to be a problem because the shareholders are not going to be happy at their annual meetings, and then they could fire, in effect, by a shareholders' vote of no confidence in the shareholders and have them replaced. So, it is extremely important that the leaders and directors of the company leading the company forward meet their financial obligations in terms of their targets, their profit margins and their market share targets that they have reportedly set out in their previous financial year statements that they're aiming to achieve. So once you've identified some of the financial problems, we really need to try and compare organisations, because it says the key word here is to compare. So how are we going to do this? Well, one way of doing this is looking at a research paper from Nelson and Enrico 2008. And Nelson and Enrico 2008 looked at this research paper and looked at various studies done by other people. And they saw that over a period of time, management accounting systems had changed within different organisations, which we'll come on to later. Now, when Enrico and Nelson and Enrico 2008 looked at different management accounting systems, and in fact they identified 28 management accounting systems. And within these 28 management accounting systems, they subcategorized them into 5 areas. So they categorized them into planning, controlling, costing, directing, and decision making. So they categorized these 28 management accounting systems into 5 management accounting system areas, including planning, controlling, costing, directing, and decision making. So we know, and we're going to be looking at different organisations from different research to see how different organisations have changed or not their management and accounting systems in these 5 areas over a period of time. But why does management and accounting systems change? Well, management and accounting systems change, according to Nelson and Enrico, because of both internal and external factors. So here is where you bring in the internal factors of the firm. Internal factors of the firm includes, how big is the organisation, which is going to affect the management accounting systems. Is it a large organisation with a tall hierarchical structure, or is it a small, flat organisation? So again, this is going to affect the company. Is the company highly technologically led? Is the company implementing various systems and approaches like TQM, Total Quality Management Principles, and CI, Continuous Improvement? Because if they're adopting these principles and they want to learn and they want to adapt and they want to develop because they want to become more efficient and effective, then this is obviously going to affect the company's profitability and what they're looking for and how they can actually cut costs. And one way of determining how they can cut costs is by working out what is happening financially in different areas of planning, controlling, costing, directing, and decision making. Hence the reason for these 5 areas. There are also external factors which can affect a company's management accounting systems. External factors including PESTEL, political, economic, social, technological, legal, and environmental factors which could affect the company, either from a domestic perspective, from a worldwide global perspective, could affect the company, having an impact on the profitability of an organisation, which will create or prompt change. If we look at what's happening in the UK with Brexit, we can see that Brexit is having a profound effect on Tesco's. Tesco's, for example, their profits are being cut by the pound decreasing in value, and goods coming in from Europe, coming into the UK, now actually costing more. So what does Tesco's do? Do they increase the value of those costs, therefore making their products less competitive, therefore taking less sales against companies like Aldi and Lidl? Or do they find better ways to reduce their internal workings and their internal costs so that they can maintain their retail prices of their goods? If we look at, from an external perspective, Porter's 5-force model. Porter's 5-force model in terms of what is actually happening in a competitive environment. In the competitive environment in terms of suppliers, buyers, how competitive the environment is, in terms of how easy it is to enter the marketplace, and also how easy or how many substitutes there are for your product or service. So we can see that there are both internal and external factors which could affect change, and a reason why firms may change their management accounting systems in terms of planning, controlling, costing, directing, and decision making. So really, to set the scene, you really need to be talking about financial problems first, and what are management accounting systems, and how management accounting systems can be split into the 5 areas of planning, controlling, costing, directing, and decision making, and then what affects these factors in terms of internal and external factors or affecting management accounting systems. After that, really, we're going to look at 2 research papers, one by Libby and Waterhouse, 1996. Now, Libby and Waterhouse, 1996, looked at 24 Canadian firms in 1991 to 1993. And they looked at their management accounting systems, and they researched these companies, and they found actually these Canadian firms, in terms of their management accounting systems, actually changed over a period of time. And the management accounting systems changed in terms of 29% of them changed in terms of planning, 22% changed in terms of decision making. So in terms of Libby and Waterhouse's research in 1996 from the 24 Canadian firms, manufacturing firms, they saw a distinct change in the management accounting systems from where it was from one period to another period in terms of changing towards planning, and decision making, from 29% to 20 and 22%, respectively, highest percent of changes, respectively. In direct contrast, in comparison to Salomon and Mitchell 2005, where they looked at 92 Malaysian organizations, looking at the 92 Malaysian organizations, Salomon and Mitchell 2005 also saw a change in the management accounting systems. And the management accounting systems, they saw a change from 89 out of the 92 companies that they researched. And they saw that, in fact, there was a change in terms of planning and control. So they saw planning, which represented 27% of the respondents and 25% of the respondents respectively, change the management accounting systems in terms of planning and control. So if we compare these directly against the management accounting systems from Libby and Waterhouse, we can see that in direct comparison from the Malaysian manufacturing organizations to the Canadian manufacturing organizations, there was a shift, there was a direct change, both in terms of planning, so both changed in terms of planning, but their second highest, second management accounting system change was for Libby and Waterhouse and the Canadian firms was in directing and control.